Echoes of the forgotten frontier. The wind howled across the barren landscape of Sigma 9, a sound that had become as familiar to Raven Hartley as her own heartbeat. Dust swirled around the makeshift habitat, its metallic panels patched together from salvaged mining equipment and whatever else she could scrounge from the unforgiving terrain. Raven wiped the thin layer of rust-colored dust from her work console, her fingers moving with practiced efficiency. 3 years of exile had taught her that survival wasn't about strength, but adaptability. The colony's survival hung by a thread, and she was determined to keep it from unraveling. The habitat's comm system crackled to life. "Hartley, we've got a problem in Sector 7, came the gravelly voice of Marcus, one of the few remaining human workers. "Atmospheric processors are showing critical instability." She sighed, already pulling up the diagnostic screens. The colony's life support systems were a constant battle against the planet's hostile environment. Sigma 9 wasn't just inhospitable, it was actively trying to kill them. Outside the reinforced windows, the landscape stretched into infinity, a canvas of rust-red rock and swirling dust storms. This wasn't the frontier humans had dreamed of when they first ventured into deep space. This was survival, stripped down to its most brutal essence. The Nyx workers moved silently between the habitat sectors, their translucent exoskeletons reflecting the harsh artificial lighting. Once considered primitive by human standards, the Nyx had proven to be resilient partners in this unforgiving world. Their natural ability to withstand extreme conditions complemented the humans' technological ingenuity. Zara, a senior Nyx technician, approached Raven's workstation. Her movement was fluid, almost liquid, a stark contrast to the rigid human machinery surrounding her. "The atmospheric processors are showing signs of molecular degradation," she stated, her voice a harmonious blend of clicks and soft resonances. Raven nodded, her fingers already dancing across the holographic interface. "I've noticed. The mineral composition of Sigma 9 is more corrosive than our original calculations suggested. We'll need to modify the protective casings." What the humans lacked in natural adaptation, they made up for in innovation. Where other species might have abandoned the colony, Raven saw a challenge to be solved, a puzzle waiting for the right solution. The habitat's central system pinged, another warning. Resource allocation was becoming critical. The mining operations that had initially brought them to Sigma 9 were producing less output with each passing month. Food synthesis units were operating at 62% efficiency, and water reclamation was becoming increasingly complex. "We need a breakthrough," Raven muttered, more to herself than to Zara. The Nyx technician tilted her head, a gesture she'd learned from observing humans. "Breakthroughs do not come from desperation, but from understanding." Raven smiled, despite the overwhelming challenges. The Nyx had a way of reducing complex problems to their most elemental form. It was why they had become such valuable allies in this remote outpost. A sudden tremor ran through the habitat's structure. Warning lights flashed red, and the atmospheric pressure sensors began to spike erratically. This was more than a simple system malfunction. "Marcus," Raven called into the comm system, "run a full diagnostic on the primary support structures. Something's not right." The colony had been built on the premise of human resilience and technological innovation. Established as a joint human-Nyx mining operation, it was supposed to be a testament to interspecies cooperation. Now, it felt more like a desperate experiment in survival. As the dust storm intensified outside, Raven knew that their greatest challenge was just beginning. Sigma 9 was testing them, and they would either adapt or perish. Whispers of adaptation. The habitat's emergency systems hummed with an underlying tension that even the most advanced sensors couldn't fully capture. Raven Hartley stood before a makeshift holographic display, her fingers tracing the intricate network of colony systems that were becoming increasingly fragile with each passing hour. Zara moved silently beside her, the Nyx technician's translucent exoskeleton catching the flickering light of the diagnostic screens. The structural integrity is deteriorating faster than our current repair protocols can manage, she observed, her voice a melodic blend of harmonic frequencies. Raven nodded, pulling up a series of complex schematics. The mining colony on Sigma 9 was more than just a scientific outpost, it was a testament to human determination and interspecies survival. Each system was a delicate balance of human engineering and Nick's biological adaptation. We need to think differently, Raven muttered, her mind racing through potential solutions. The traditional repair methods were failing, and conventional wisdom suggested they should consider evacuation. But abandonment was never an option for her. Marcus, the colony's chief operations officer, entered the control room. His weathered face told a story of countless challenges overcome. The external radiation levels are spiking, he reported. Our current shielding won't hold much longer. The challenge was multifaceted. Sigma 9's environment was a hostile cocktail of corrosive minerals, unpredictable radiation, and atmospheric conditions that seemed designed to destroy any form of complex life. Most species would have given up long ago. Zara approached a secondary console, her appendages moving with a precision that defied human understanding. The Nix have a saying, she began, survival is not about resisting change, but becoming the change. It was a philosophy that resonated deeply with Raven. Humans had always been adapters, innovators, creators of solutions where none seemed possible. She began to sketch out a radical new approach to the colony's structural protection. What if, Raven said, her voice gaining excitement, we don't just protect against the environment, but integrate with it? The concept was revolutionary. Instead of fighting against Sigma 9's harsh conditions, they would develop systems that could absorb, transform, and utilize the very elements that threatened their existence. Marcus looked skeptical. That sounds like theoretical nonsense. We need practical solutions. But Zara was intrigued. Her species had a deep understanding of biological adaptation that complemented human technological innovation. Explain, she prompted Raven. The plan began to take shape. They would develop a new class of protective materials that could dynamically respond to the environment. Nano-adaptive membranes that could restructure themselves, absorbing radiation and converting corrosive mineral compounds into usable energy. It's not just about survival, Raven explained, her eyes bright with the passion of discovery. It's about turning our greatest challenge into our most significant opportunity. The next few days became a blur of intensive research and development. The habitat's secondary laboratories became a crucible of human creativity and Nick's biological insight. Raven worked alongside Zara, their different approaches creating a synergy that was greater than the sum of its parts. They weren't just solving a technical problem. They were rewriting the rules of survival in the most hostile environment imaginable. A breakthrough came unexpectedly. During a routine material stress test, one of their experimental nano-adaptive membranes began to show properties they had only dreamed of. It could not only withstand the corrosive environment but actually draw energy from it. This changes everything, Marcus said, his initial skepticism replaced by a sense of cautious hope. But Raven knew their challenges were far from over. The successful laboratory test was just the first step. They would need to scale this technology across the entire colony, retrofit existing structures, and develop new systems of survival. As the artificial lights of the habitat cast long shadows, Raven looked out at the swirling dust storms of Sigma 9. This planet had been trying to kill them. Now, they were learning to speak its language. We're not just surviving, she told Zara and Marcus. We're learning to thrive. The colony held its breath, poised on the edge of a breakthrough that could change everything. The Forgotten Protocol. The discovery of the nano-adaptive membrane sent ripples of anticipation through the colony. What had begun as a desperate attempt to survive was transforming into something far more significant. Raven Hartley stood in the central research hub, surrounded by holographic projections of their latest findings. "There's something more here," she muttered, her fingers dancing across the interface. The data suggested more than just a technological breakthrough. There was a pattern, a hidden complexity that seemed to defy their initial understanding. Marcus approached, a datapad in hand. "We've detected an unusual energy signature in the deep geological layers," he reported. "It doesn't match any known mineral or energy profile in our database." Zara, the Nyx technician, moved closer to the display. Her translucent exoskeleton refracted the holographic light, creating intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with an almost living quality. "The signature resonates with something familiar," she said, her voice carrying a note of uncertainty. Deep beneath the surface of Sigma-9, something was waiting to be discovered. Raven initiated a deep scan protocol, routing their new nano-adaptive technology into the planet's geological network. The initial results were stunning. What appeared to be random geological formations began to reveal a structure, almost like a circuit, but far more complex than any artificial system they had ever encountered. "This isn't just a natural formation," Raven breathed. "This is something else." The colony's research team worked with renewed intensity. Their previous challenges of survival now seemed like a mere prelude to a much larger mystery. The planet itself appeared to be more than just a hostile environment, it was a puzzle waiting to be solved. Days turned into weeks of intensive research. The energy signature grew more pronounced, revealing layers of complexity that challenged everything they understood about planetary systems. It was as if Sigma-9 had been waiting for someone to unlock its secrets. Zara made a breakthrough that changed everything. "The geological network," she explained, her communication a blend of spoken language and intricate light patterns, "it's not just a natural formation. It's a system. An ancient system." The implications were staggering. Whatever they had discovered was far older than human or Nyx civilization. It predated their understanding of planetary formation, of technological development, of life itself. Marcus pulled up a series of comparative scans. "Look at these energy distributions," he said. "They're too precise to be random. This is something engineered." Raven's mind raced with possibilities. The nano-adaptive membrane they had developed suddenly seemed like a crude tool compared to the complexity they were uncovering. Whatever this was, it had been waiting, perhaps for millions of years, to be understood. A warning system triggered, sending a cascade of alerts through the colony's communication network. The energy signature was responding to their probing, but was it a defensive mechanism or something else entirely? "We're being watched," Zara said quietly, her entire being seeming to vibrate with an almost imperceptible tension. The colony held its collective breath. What had begun as a desperate attempt to survive on a hostile planet was transforming into something far more significant. They were no longer just survivors, they were on the verge of a discovery that could change everything they understood about the universe. Raven looked at her team, humans and Nyx working together, united by curiosity and the drive to understand. "Whatever this is," she said, her voice steady, "we're going to uncover its secrets." The forgotten protocol of Sigma-9 was awakening. And nothing would ever be the same. As the artificial lights of the habitat cast long shadows, the planet beneath them seemed to pulse with an ancient, waiting intelligence. Something was stirring, something that had been dormant for eons, waiting for the right combination of curiosity, technology, and determination to bring it to life. Crucible of survival. The energy signature grew more intense with each passing hour. What had begun as a scientific curiosity had transformed into an existential challenge that threatened the very existence of the colony. Raven Hartley stood at the center of a storm of data, her eyes reflecting the complex holographic projections that danced around her. "It's not just responding to us," she told Marcus and Zara, her voice tight with concentration. "It's preparing for something." The planetary network they had discovered was unlike anything in human or Nyx scientific records. It pulsed with an intelligence that seemed to defy conventional understanding, part geological formation, part complex machine, part something entirely unknown. Sigma-9 was changing. The planet's surface began to shift in subtle but unmistakable ways. Geological formations that had remained stable for millennia started to reconfigure, creating patterns that suggested a level of complexity far beyond natural processes. Marcus brought up the latest sensor readings. Radiation levels are spiking. The planetary core is becoming increasingly unstable. His voice carried an edge of barely contained panic. We're looking at a potential planetary destabilization. Zara moved to the main console, her translucent exoskeleton catching the emergency lighting. This is not destruction, she said, her voice a melodic blend of certainty and wonder. This is activation. The colony's survival now depended on understanding a system far beyond their current technological capabilities. Raven pulled up the schematics of their nano-adaptive membrane. The technology that had seemed revolutionary just weeks ago now appeared woefully inadequate. We need to interface directly, Raven muttered, her mind racing through potential approaches. Not just observe, but communicate. A series of tremors rippled through the habitat. Equipment rattled, and warning systems blared their urgent warnings. But Raven saw something the sensors couldn't detect, a pattern, a rhythm to the planetary transformation. It's a language, she said suddenly. We've been treating it like a system, but it's communicating. The colony mobilized with a precision born of desperation and hope. Their previous challenges of survival now seemed like a mere prelude to this moment. Humans and Nyx worked in perfect synchronization, their different approaches to problem-solving creating a unique approach to the unfolding crisis. Zara developed a communication protocol that merged Nyx's biological sensing capabilities with human technological innovation. It was a risky approach, attempting to establish communication with a planetary system that defied conventional understanding. As the planet continued to transform, the colony's outer defenses began to react. The nano-adaptive membranes they had developed started to resonate with the planetary energy, creating a complex feedback loop that neither humans nor Nyx could fully comprehend. We're not just surviving, Raven told her team, we're being invited to something bigger. The planetary core continued its mysterious activation. Geological formations rose and fell like breathing, creating patterns that suggested an intelligence far beyond their current understanding. It was as if Sigma-9 itself was awakening, not as a threat, but as a potential ally. Marcus approached Raven, his typically stoic demeanor replaced by a mix of fear and excitement. We're running out of time, he said. Either we understand this now, or we lose everything. The colony stood at the precipice of a discovery that could change everything they understood about planetary systems, about life itself. The forgotten protocol of Sigma-9 was no longer just waiting, it was demanding a response. As the planetary transformation reached its critical point, Raven knew they had moments to make a decision that would determine the fate of not just their colony, but potentially their entire understanding of the universe. Prepare for direct interface, she commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. We're about to have a conversation with a planet. Horizons unbound. The moment of interface was both terrifying and transcendent. As Raven Hartley connected the colony's primary systems to the planetary network, reality itself seemed to bend and reshape around them. What had begun as a desperate attempt to survive transformed into something far beyond their wildest imagination. The planetary consciousness of Sigma-9 was not a threat. It was a guardian, an ancient system of preservation that had been waiting for the right combination of intelligence and adaptability to awaken. We're not being destroyed, Zara said, her translucent form shimmering with an inner light that pulsed in synchronization with the planetary network. We're being understood. Layers of information flooded the colony's systems. Memories of civilizations long forgotten, technological achievements that predated human or Nyx existence, cascaded through their communication networks. Sigma-9 was more than a planet, it was a repository of knowledge, a living archive of cosmic history. Marcus watched in awe as the colony's defensive systems transformed. The nano-adaptive membranes they had developed became conduits of communication, bridging the gap between technological innovation and planetary intelligence. What had seemed like a hostile environment was revealing itself as a complex, living system. Raven stood at the center of the transformation, her hands moving across interfaces that seemed to respond to her very thoughts. "We're not just survivors," she said, her voice carrying a newfound clarity. "We're participants in something much larger." The planetary network began to reshape the colony itself. Geological formations rose and fell with purpose, creating structures that merged natural geology with technological precision. Habitation zones expanded, becoming more than just shelters, they became living extensions of the planet's own consciousness. Communication was no longer about language or technology. It was about understanding, about a fundamental connection that transcended species and planetary boundaries. "The protocol," Zara explained, her voice a melodic interpretation of the planetary communication, "is about preservation. About potential. Sigma-9 has been waiting for a species capable of true adaptation." Humans and Nyx found themselves transformed. Their biological and technological limitations seemed to dissolve, replaced by a new understanding of existence. The colony was no longer just an outpost of survival, it had become a bridge between different forms of intelligence. As the planetary transformation reached its culmination, Raven realized they had been given more than just survival. They had been offered evolution. The final layers of the Forgotten Protocol revealed its true purpose. Sigma-9 was a testing ground, a crucible designed to identify and nurture species with the potential for true interstellar adaptation. Humans and Nyx had proven themselves not just by surviving, but by their ability to work together, to innovate, to understand. "We're being invited," Raven said, her eyes reflecting the complex patterns of planetary communication, "to something much bigger than ourselves." The colony's horizon expanded beyond physical limitations. What had begun as a desperate attempt to survive on a hostile planet had transformed into an invitation to join a cosmic network of intelligence far beyond their previous understanding. Marcus looked at Raven, a mixture of awe and understanding in his eyes. "What do we do now?" Raven's smile was both a promise and a challenge. "We explore. We learn. We become." As the first light of a new day broke over Sigma-9, the colony stood as a testament to the power of adaptation, of cooperation, of the unbreakable human spirit of discovery. They were no longer just survivors, they were pioneers of a new understanding of existence. The Forgotten Protocol was no longer forgotten. And their journey was just beginning.